terrifying.
The king of cakes. Chopper for the win.
G'day guys, welcome back to Cakes by Chopper. Two things before we get started. I want to thank RøDE for giving me the microphones that make this video possible. And I want to let you guys know that I'm coming to London. I will be at VidCon London on the 14th of February. It's only a couple of weeks away. I'm so excited. I've only traveled to America before. I've never been to the UK or Europe, so this is huge. So yeah, if you're going, all info for the tickets are below, and I'd love to see you there. Let me know, tweet me, Instagram, whatever. I'll see you there. Now, let's get to Gromit. If you know a Gromit fan from Wallace and Gromit, you can make this simple, easy cake. Stick around and I'll show you how. Okay, so the first thing you're gonna do is head over to the CakesByChoppA Facebook page and print off your template. Normally I do the two because you get one for the cake and one for the fondant, so you're not using a dirty template on the other. I've done that before and it's a bit of a pain. You can work around it, but why not make life simpler? So we're gonna place his face here. If your cake has risen unevenly like mine has, what you can do is place it on the thicker side because these will be used for the top. You don't really need the height. The base layers, you do need the height. So what you're gonna do is place that on using your knife vertically. Get that over as far as possible to get the most out of the cake. And just trim that away. Just keeping it vertical all the way around. Sticking to the template. Put your offcuts to the side. Very important you keep the offcuts because we're going to be layering this cake up. Now when you're positioning this, you want it right at the front because his ears are going to come over the top. And this is what I meant about the cake sticking. So the next part, you're going to cut out his nose. So just along that dotted line. Place that on your cake. Same again. Now at the top of his face you can see I've got this sort of elongated jelly bean. We're going to cut that out along the dotted line as well. And then place that on there. As you can see, I've also used the cake leveler to split the cake, which makes cutting just a little trickier, but it's okay. I'm going to use that for his brow. Now with this last little bit of offcut, you can either do his ears, which will totally fit, but I'm just going to do them in fondant. So once you've got all those pieces cut out, what you're going to do is keep this one aside because we may not need 2 layers for his brow because this is going to be cut down. So I just keep that there as a safety net. Now what we're going to do is take this, make sure it's level, and then just little bit by bit take off the edges because we're trying to taper it down to meet the sides. So he's got quite a rounded face. So I'll show you here. We're just taking a little bit off. The bottom area doesn't go down as low, but these side pieces do. And especially when it comes to his nose up here. You don't have to do this, but the buttercream will fix it. You can actually use these little pieces in here to taper down as well. And it just gives you that smoother effect and you don't have to cut so much away. So the same thing with his brow. We're going to just taper that down this way. Again, you can turn that little piece in and it'll cover in that small part. Not a necessity, but it might help. Because what we're trying to achieve here is just that little raised brow. Once you're happy with the shape of his face and his nose, I'm going to pull this off in pieces. I always like to place them in order, so the top layer furthest away, because then when I come back to it, I can just grab what's closest and stack them on. In case you're wondering, I went with a passion fruit and poppy seed cake with a delicious passion fruit buttercream. I'm just going to take quite a generous amount of that. Move it around to the edge, making sure you get right to the edge. I'm going to flip that, place it on top. Another generous helping on the bottom. Go again with the next layer. And then placing that on top. Same with the top of his head. I don't put so much at the top because it's going to be a smaller piece, and if you put too much buttercream there, the weight of the fondant will make it bubble out. So place those two pieces on. A little bit of extra buttercream in the centerpiece. Then we're going to go around and give it a full crumb coat. I can see a slight area here that's going to be a problem. I'm just going to take the knife and shave that back a little bit, purely because it was a bit of a pointy cake area. And that's the easiest way to rip your fondant, because you don't want it to be too sharp where you're going to try and smooth it, it'll just poke a hole through. So just keep an eye out for those. To give us a little playroom with his eyes, I'm going to add a dollop of buttercream on the side and a dollop on this side. It's just going to give me a little bit of leeway so I can push his eyes in, because they sort of look sunken in. And you're just tapering it at the side. I mean, if you want to fill that with cake, go ahead. Now just go around the edges and try and smooth that out as much as possible without taking too much of the buttercream away. Okay, so I'm not sure how this is going to work in the editing, but I covered the cake with fondant and it was a little bit too warm down here, and the buttercream just wasn't liking that, neither was the fondant. So I ripped it off and I've started again after chilling the cake. So what I'm going to do is use the spatula to go around and just smooth out any little rough edges. When you've got an average type temperature, it doesn't really matter, but I didn't realize how warm it had got down here. So as you can see, I'm just making sure any of these little raised up pieces, you can actually get a paper towel and go around and smooth them out even smoother, but I don't think that it's necessary. I just think as long as you've got no little peaks that could tear through your fondant, you're good. Once I'm happy with that, what I've done is got some white fondant and put a few drops of brown in, and it gives me this light tan. I'm gonna put some cornflour down, which I've done, and we're gonna roll it out. You keep it moving so your fondant doesn't stick to the table. Even though you've put the cornflour down, when you roll it out, it moves. So you want to keep that fondant moving so there's a new layer of cornflour underneath. Making sure when you roll out your fondant that you are aware of the fact that the top is much narrower and the bottom is quite wide. Pull that over, laying that down. And just gently pulling this out so that these little folds don't get too heavy-handed, too set in. Let the fondant do its work up to a point, then you're going to start pushing it in. Otherwise the folds get set and it's a pain to get them out. You can see here, I just lift and gently push down and the folds will come out. Now with this shape, there is a little bit of air trapped in where his eye sockets will go, but I'm not too bothered about that, because when we use our little tool here, we can pierce where the eyes will go and then work your way in and just push that air out. When I covered it before, the heat down here was not letting the cake support the fondant. So it started to bubble out and it started to go really wrong. But now, as you can see, it's got a little bit more support. I can get it smooth. And by the time the cake starts to come back to room temperature, your fondant will have already started to crust. So you've got your cake already set in. As I go around and trim off this edge, I'll explain one of the reasons that I've really wanted to do Gromit is I'm going to VidCon UK, or VidCon London, in a couple of weeks. I'm super excited. I've never been anywhere but the US. And it just got me thinking of all things British, and you know, Wallace and Gromit's quite iconic over there. I know Rosie loves Wallace and Gromit. Rosie is my mate on Instagram and YouTube. She runs Vintage Toy Box. She has some of the toys that I've had since I had when I was a child. So I love watching just what she comes up with and what she finds. The way she talks about them too with such passion, it's just beautiful. And the fact that Rosie is just always supporting me. She's always liking, always commenting. I love you for it, Rosie, thank you. All right, balling up a little bit of the fondant, a little bit of cornflour. And this is going to take it from a little bit ripply to this beautiful, smooth, almost clay-like. Just gotta be careful it doesn't grab. If you get a little bit of moisture on there, it will grab. I just nearly ripped his eyebrow off. That's why this cornflour is so important. Once you've got the bottom, or actually the first layer of Gromit's face done, get your brown food dye. I'm just using a gel here. You're going to use quite a bit because you want it a very dark brown. You've just got to watch for the back where it tears out, but this is what I find the easiest way to not get it everywhere, because you can sort of see when it's coming and then just fold it in amongst itself. Now for his ears, it's a very, very simple technique. You're going to roll it so you get a nice smooth edge without any creases in it. A little bit of rubbing like this helps. And you're going to just bring that up. You're going to try and keep it the same width and the same height. And conveniently on the template, you've got this shape here, so you'll know that goes to about there. So we need the ear about that long. Just discard that one. And just roll your hand down on the edge, and that will round that out. Now if you've done this right, you should be able to cut that in half. And then you slightly tap on the end, and that'll round it out a bit better. Now I'll take that, place that on. This is the easy part where you get to mold it while it's on the board. I could open some black and make his nose, or I can just use some of this brown and paint it, which I think I'm going to paint because it's going to give it that nice glossy look. So I just have to roll a nice ball that doesn't have any little creases. Okay. I'm not sure where the camera stopped, but I got the fondant and the excess, turned it really dark brown, put that into the shape of his ears, placed it on the top, used a round piece, and then painted it with some black edible food dye. And now it's time to clean up the table, get my hands really clean because we're going to work with some white. Okay, so grab your template and grab some white fondant. Make sure your hands are super clean or they're going to pick up the colouring. And you're just going to roll a nice round ball, just like that. If you have trouble getting it smooth, just give it a twist and that'll flatten the top, and then you just roll around, and any little lines you just hide underneath. You'll get a nice smooth top like that. Make sure they are a little bit bigger than the template, but you don't want them too different in size. Now for his eyes, we're going to push our thumb down just a little bit to give him little seated holes to go in. And his eyes do gently touch together. I'm gonna find something that's very similar size. As you can see, I put this on a template, they're very close. I'm going to lightly put in guide circles. Now I know they're just a little bit bigger than that. There you go guys, you have your quick and easy Gromit from Wallace and Gromit, the TV show. I will see you guys at VidCon London, and big thanks to RøDE once again for hooking me up with the microphones. There'll be collabs coming very soon, and I'll see you in the next video.